Hello Duelist, this is Tom Boxer. Welcome to MST.TV, and I've got a set analysis for you guys today for the next coming set, EXFO. Extreme something something force. The something something was very necessary because demonetization is a real thing. I've tested it, trust me. Now, just a heads up, I am recording this one ahead of time. Usually I release it during the same week that it's going to be released, usually on that Monday. However, because I am going to Japan OCG land for about a week next week, that's not possible, so I had to do it early. I just didn't have much of a choice on that matter. Now, even though I don't have a full release list to go by, I believe I have enough information to provide very decent insight regarding the next coming set, what you should care about, and all the stuff that I usually do on the set analysis anyway. So there is a bit more estimation work here, and I am missing about like 13 cards in this set, but you guys can definitely check it out on YG Organization when the information is released, and also the wiki app. Now, with all that being said, next time I will be going back to full coverage and 99% of all the cards. So I will apologize in advance for this video not having, that extra coverage. In this set analysis, I'll be taking an in-depth look at the hype cards and the money cards, and I'll only mention the prices of the money cards or stuff that's actually worth something for the ones that we should actually care about. Otherwise, just remember, ultra rares, if they're generic, $3 to $5 after the release, and aside from that, super rares are usually worth $1 or $2 unless it's really hype, like staple level. Then I'll also mention those as well. But anything else, well, I'm not gonna mention the price. Now we'll also take a look at the new archetypes. We'll give a shout out to the archetypes getting support. We'll showcase a few underrated potential cards, and we're going to talk about the TCG exclusives, and then we'll just run by the remaining cards that are left out in the filter of our set. So without further ado, let's go into the hype cards. Okay, so for the first hype card, we have Localized Trunade, Giant Trunade's little brother. Now, how does he fare? Now, in terms of price range at sneak peek, it's ranging for me right now about $25 to $30. And that is a very high price if it's a secret rare. The rarity has not been announced yet, but if it was a secret rare, it would be around there, and then it would settle to around $15. Like, why is it simply tanking so hard right from the beginning? Well, there's actually a lot of reason for that, but even though it is tanking very hard, you should still probably pick up 3 copies of this card in case the format shifts, because it is a super generic card. Remember the rule of thumb, if it doesn't have a lot of text and it does a lot of things, it's probably a good card at some point in the future. That's just the generic rule. But why is it not very good? Well, for 2 things, it's doing 2 things that are worse than its big brother, Giant Trunade. The first thing is it only returns set cards that are spells and traps. So, in other words, you have not used the effects of these cards. You have not abused these effects, because it's very rare for you to activate a card to flip a spell and trap back to face down. And if a card is face down in the spell and trap zone, it just means that you've never used it yet. And if you bounce it back, it just slows it down all entirely. So overall, you're not abusing or reusing any type of effects. So that's point 1. Point 2 is actually our current game state, our current meta game. We play a lot of hand traps when we activate stuff from hand. Even our current traps in the upcoming set in Flame of Destruction, well, that one, most of those traps are just activated from hand. Evenly match, activated from hand. Like, things are just coming off from the hand more and more often, and therefore, if this card existed 4 years ago, it would have been really good. Probably the most busted card. But now, kind of a bit lackluster, but it can kill off counter traps like Solemn Strike, Solemn Warning, because, well, screwing over that timing is actually very handy. But perhaps it is one of those cards you would keep in the side deck for going second if you expect your opponent to be playing, Solemn cards. But that's just my opinion regarding this card. Let's actually move on to the next one. Next up, we have Saryuja, the Skuldred, the most sought-after card in this entire set. But why is that? Well, most of you guys might know him as Skulldeep, the Chain Draco Serpent, if you guys have been playing online like crazy and you guys know what he does. Well, he's the next draw engine level Link monster. And price range wise, at sneak peek, expect him to be about $40 to $50. If you pick him at 40, congratulations. I think you actually got a pretty damn good deal. But otherwise, he's probably going to settle down to about $35 to potentially even $45, maintaining most of his value. He's definitely worth the keep because he is very good, and he's also a generic Link monster. He is that level 4 Link monster, dragon-esque monster that everyone wants in every box. So, what makes him so special? Well, he is a Link monster that's a Link 4, so but his recipe requires 2+ monsters with different names. And this card gains effects based on the number of monsters used for its link summon. So maybe you do want to just use 4 little spammy monsters. Those scapegoats are starting to look really, really nice with Imduck and maybe Link Karibo and all those other fancy little monsters. And tokens do carry different names for different types of tokens. And if you use 2+ monsters, well, if a monster is normal or special summoned into a zone this card points to, which points up, and you guys can just see the card right here, it gains 300 attack and defense. Whatever. The second effect is once per turn, you can special summon 1 monster from your hand. Okay, that is kind of nuts. Free special summon off of a 28 beat stick. Pretty insane already. And think about Firewall. Firewall needs a proc. This guy's just like a special summon this dude. Here you go. Special summon Christia. You don't meet the condition. I don't care. Like, that kind of deal. Pretty nasty stuff. But the 4 monster link is where it's at. When this card is link summoned, draw 4 cards. Well, you can draw 4 cards and then place 3 from your hand back to the bottom of the deck in any order. Like, you just graceful charitied twice. Literally. Just a handful of cards. And yeah, it doesn't state that he's once per turn. There are decks that are aimed to turbo him like crazy until you get the perfect hand, and then you play your perfect hand. Grinder Golem himself can make it. The Venus can also make it by herself. You do need a Link Spider. You do need a what's that card? Imduck of the World Chalice. If you have those 2, you have your Venus, Mystic Shine Ball, your Imduck, and your Link Spider, and that's 4 different names, allowing you to summon him out just with a normal summon. And don't forget, he offers you another summon back, and he gives you an additional card in your hand. That is pretty nuts. You can see why he has so much hype behind him. Not once per turn as well. Not hard once per turn anyway. So if you guys get this card, congratulations, you are the winner of your sneak peek. Next up, we have Heavy Metal Electromite. This card has just as much hype as Skull Dread, especially for those who are playing Pendulums, and it is an essential monster in the Pendulum lineup. It has been confirmed a secret, so this one I don't have to guess regarding its prices because it is quite up there. I'm anticipating at Sneak, you can probably pay for 40 to 45 for this card, and probably settling down to about 35 to 40, depending on the format. If the format is Pendulum heavy and Pendulum would become, say, tier 0, this card will spike the hell up. Just remember that, because it is so generic. Why? In terms of like a toolbox level card, this card is like in the range of a Lava Vault Chain in terms of its usefulness, and you guys know how useful Lava Vault Chain was. You top deck any deck and act as a Foolish Burial. A searchable Foolish Burial is ridiculous because sometimes 1 card mill is all you need, and this card is the 1 card search for any of your Pendulum. You can just put it right into the extra deck and you can retrieve it by popping off one of your own Pendulum scales. And if anything leaves your Pendulum scales, you draw a card. It is tons of advantage strictly for Pendulum. The recipe itself requires 2 Pendulum monsters. If this card is link summoned, you can add a Pendulum monster from your deck to your extra deck, and once per turn you can target 1 other face-up card you control, pop it, and then add a face-up Pendulum monster from your extra deck to your hand, giving you that fetch. And if you pop a Pendulum zone, or if a card leaves your Pendulum zone, draw 1 card. Just sheer Pendulum advantage is what this card is all about. I honestly thought it was pretty nasty. You can replay so many decks. Pendulum Magicians appreciate it. Even old school Draco Pal players would appreciate it because you get that Ariadne every time. Ariadne is no longer like a Saki card that you have to top deck. It is a card that you will have. And with all the cards like Duelist Alliance giving you that fetch for the Luster that you so dearly need, you can set up some pretty nasty back row and potentially even stop your opponent from actually getting any sort of play done. But yeah, this is where this card is going. Not sure if you should actually pick up more than 2 copies and expect to probably sell 1 off if it becomes a problem, because the usefulness being at the level of almost like a Lava Vault Chain usually is like a red flag for you. A red herring is that it could be on a ban list a bit sooner than you would actually like. But that's just my opinion regarding this card. We'll move on to the next card now. Now we have Isolde's Tale of Two Noble Knights, which is the generic warrior support, but also more specifically added support to the Noble Knights archetype. She's an ultra rare confirmed. Expect her price range should be about $10 to $15 upon sneak peek, and then really settling around 5 to 10, around that range. I think that she might go up in the coming set in Flames of Destruction, just because Element Sabers use her to replenish resources as they're comboing, and for that Mulan Glacia play, it's just the thing that is going to happen. So you know that she's good in the future, might as well just pick up a few copies now and expect it to, you know, go up a little higher, but don't pay full price on it if you're planning on just investing. But she has a lot of potential, strictly because upon link summoning this card, you can add one warrior monster from the deck to your hand, but you cannot normal summon or set or special summon or activate the card's name for that turn, which is okay. For Element Savers, you're like, okay, I'm just gonna save it for resources. Next, we have another card from the OCG Link Brains pack, I guess imported to us. These are actually the only 3 imports that we do know, and this is Curious George and the Man in the Yellow Hat. We have a man in the yellow hat, but it is Curious the Lightsworn Dominion. Rarity of this card, not exactly guaranteed to know what it is. I think it's a super rare. Best bet, probably it is a super rare, and so it ranges between $3 to $5 on the sneak peek, and that's usually where it's going to be sitting. I expect this card to be reprinted as well, so once the reprints comes out, these are completely worthless. Okay, so regarding this card, why is it pretty hyped up? It's because a lot of decks can actually use this card. It's pretty generic, requires monsters of different types but the same attribute, and a lot of decks can fulfill that requirement, and the effect of this card is pretty awesome. Although the summoning recipe is a little bit difficult, requiring 3 monsters, and that you can't really use link monsters that kind of fill that slot unless you use it as one generic monster. But the effect is that upon link summoning, you can send 1 card from the deck to the graveyard, any card you want, which is awesome. So it acts as almost like a lava ball chain, and that will actually proc the other effect, which is milling 3 cards. Upon, like, if a card is sent from the deck to the graveyard, you mill 3. But the other crazy effect about this card is that you can retrieve any of your cards in the graveyard when it's sent to the graveyard by your opponent's card effect or by battle. So it's just a generic retriever. If you can meet the condition, why not actually try this out, because it can synergize with you very well. You can even crash this monster if you really want to. But yeah, this guy, not worth very much, but hey, it deserves a mention in the hype card because a lot of people do want to keep at least some of this for their future deck building. And we have Underclock Taker here as our last card that I believe is really hyped in this set because, well, it is probably going to be a secret in my opinion. Just comparing it to Firewall, and then Akashic, this would be like the Akashic level card. Now, this card here, Underclock Taker, price range wise, I think it's going to be about $20 on release, and then after sneak peek, we'll probably go down to about 10, 15. Kind of like the same thing that happened to Akashic. Although Akashic is a bit on the rise right now because of all the Grinder Golem plays and this card coming out, you know, facilitating into that Grinder Golem 1-card Topple Logic, OTK, 8,000 damage, easy peasy, lemon squeezy. But okay, but honestly here, everyone should actually pick up one of these because it is actually very useful to have an arrow pointing downwards. We don't exactly have enough of these. And being able to create an arrow pointing downwards, and then if you summon on top of that, it's okay. You can use the effect to lower the attack of your opponent's monster, potentially breaking the board of some really fat monster that you just don't want to deal with. If your monsters don't exactly have a lot of attack, then this is one of those combo pieces that give you that extra reach. And there you go. I know that there's still 2 slots missing over here. What could they be? It could be probably more OCG imports, maybe a security dragon. Maybe they just want to give us the security dragon early and not put it in a tin, and that'd be really nice so that we can actually keep up with the meta. But aside from that, what else could it be? It could probably be a Fright for Patchwork. Finally, we deserve this card. It's been so long. What are they gonna do? Juice us later? Make it a secret rare? You can juice the player now. Some of you guys are obviously not gonna like me for saying it, but hey, it's just me just stirring the pot here. But anyways, let's go on to some of the new archetypes now. Now, in EXFO, we're introduced into 3 new archetypes. The first archetype we're going to talk about is MEKK-KNIGHTS. They are Konami's latest efforts at a column-based archetype. How do they work? Well, there's 2 things you really have to care about. Their summoning condition. If there are 2 cards in the exact same column, whether it be your opponent's or your own cards, whether it be you're using the extra monster zone, you can special summon this card out onto those spots from your hand. And that's the first part. The second part is they have spells and traps that offer a bunch of board control negation. And we'll talk about that fairly soon. But looking into cards that we do know about this archetype, we have MEKK-KNIGHT of Blue Skies. Now, Blue Sky is a Stratos, and it searches based off of how many cards your opponent controls in that same column. When this card is summoned from the hand, whether it be normal or special, search cards that are MEKK-KNIGHT monsters from the deck that are not Blue Sky, equal to the number of cards your opponent controls in the same column, which is pretty neat. But if you do get Ghost Ogre or if the monster gets popped, you don't have a column to actually match anymore, and that actually changes it up a little. You can even summon him out, activate him, and then use the other card to move him to another column, and then you'll search based on that column instead, which is a fun little neat trick. Anyways, for this card is already confirmed to be a secret rare. Expect him to be about $20 on release and probably dropping and settling to around $15. And in terms of prices, I'm not going to go over all the prices except for the ones I believe that they do matter. Next up, we have Cobalt Depths. Cobalt Depths is a pretty awesome monster. I guess he's the one. If the other one was Sky, this one's the Sea. And for this monster, all he does is he shifts columns. He can target another MEKK-KNIGHT and then move it to another column, or he can target himself and move it to another column. That's basically all he does, but you'll realize very quickly that he is one of your most important monsters, which is why I believe, in terms of a rarity estimation, he could potentially even be an ultra rare, because he's that useful. Without him, you can't really do as much negation as possible, and it is actually very fun if you actually have two of them. You actually control about 4 zones worth of play. A card that can potentially even be a secret rare is MEKK-KNIGHT of World Scar. Unlike most of the other Link monsters, this CYBERSE monster required 2+ MEKK-KNIGHT monsters to make it. I'm guessing in the future there might even be another MEKK-KNIGHT available, a Link to MEKK-KNIGHT that could change up the game entirely. But this monster doesn't want to point to anything, and when it's not pointing to anything, it gains all sorts of immunity from targeting, from destruction, and also it can actually attack directly if the column in front of it is or the entire column is empty. If you actually put something in the back row aligned to him, you can't attack directly, but at least you'll still be protected. And one fun thing about this card is that it has another column based effect, which is you can send one card you control in this card's column to the graveyard, and you can special summon a MEKK-KNIGHT from your deck in defense position, and you can basically tether out all the utility you need. And if you put it in defense position, all the other monsters also have some sort of column-based effect. Now, this card, I definitely believe it should be a secret rare or an ultra rare. If it's a secret rare, expect this one to be more expensive than the Blue Sky, because it has a much better search effect. It carries the effect of a wind-up rabbit, and you can target another MEKK-KNIGHT monster as a quick effect. Target a MEKK-KNIGHT monster on the field, you can banish it till the next standby phase, your next standby phase specifically, and then you can also search a card with that too. So it's pretty neat, pretty nifty, very useful for dodging effects, and when it comes back you put it onto any column, which is also very fun. We also have True Depths of the World Legacy. This is the trap card that is acting as a call to Haunted, and also while this card is face up, if your MEKK-KNIGHT is aligned with your opponent's cards, their monster's effect on resolution will not resolve. And here's the funny thing, even if they activate on the field and they left the field, it's still negated. Yeah, it's as long as you're matching the column of where they activated. For the remaining cards, we have a Crimson Lotus and a Golden Bloom, respectively a monster column removal and a spell trap column removal, with the cost of banishing a MEKK-KNIGHT out of the graveyard. But it's okay, you can actually retrieve that monster with Key to World Legacy. You can actually add back your World Legacy or your MEKK-KNIGHT cards back to your hand from the banish area. And this one also offers the ability to negate traps as long as your monsters are matching the same column. It's a continuous not activation negation, but effect negation. And for the green and orange, we have Green Gale and I guess the Amber Shade. Amber Shade lets you special summon a card from your hand, and the green one lets you, I believe, target a MEKK-KNIGHT in your graveyard and add it back to your hand. But the trap here, Whisper of the World Legacy, is actually what I really care about. It is the spell negator. Although it doesn't exactly offer you a really good effect, it is a damage boost and defense boost of 1000. It's an option to actually target one of the level 5 monster to activate this. Even if you don't have a level 5 or higher monster activate this, you can just get it for the other continuous effect, because it is optional. Okay, so for the last card, we have the field spell, which is the promo card. I don't know what 000 is going to be. I hope it's a good card, or maybe we're actually losing the number 000 entirely, because this one is not 000, but this is the promo card. All MEKK-KNIGHTS gain 300 attack, and it has one really nasty effect if you actually run every single color, and you manage to put every single one into the graveyard. Well, let's just say your opponent loses their entire hand and their entire extra deck. In terms of setup, very, very difficult to actually set this up, because you also need to make the link monster to actually do this. Potentially, you can use a soul charge to actually get the effect off, but that is all I've got for this archetype. And if you actually want to try it out, I am actually going to update the deck profile very soon in the future with level eaters and other crazy stuff that lets you do a lot of link plays. So for the next archetype, let's talk about Tindangles. And if you guys are playing in the Sneak Peek Draft Tournament, I guess you guys should learn about these guys as well, as they are quite useful and potentially can just win you the whole thing. Now, what about this guy? We have Tindangle, Acute CYBERSE. He is the boss monster. Most of the other monsters are all flip effect monsters, except for, I believe, the dice. The one that looks like a D20. That is Tindangle Base Gardener, and you actually need him in the graveyard and 2 other names to gain 3000 attack for this monster. And if it points to any more Tindangle, it gains more attack. All he does is gain attack, and he generates tokens. That's all he does. Nothing else. You don't really have to care about him. Euler's Circuit. Euler's Circuit is a field spell. You can actually give control of your monster to your opponent. Basically opening the gate. If you have the CYBERSE, you can summon the token, put an attack mode, and give it to your opponent. And then they have to take a swing. You get to swing at them for free, which is actually pretty nice. That's just my opinion anyway. Now, regarding the Nagel's Protection, this is the most awesome continuous spell, which offers battle protection and also card effect protection from destruction. Because, well, your guys are flip effect monsters. You're going to die by battle or some way or some form. That's just the truth. And one other thing is that your first battle damage from a Tindangle monster you inflict to your opponent is doubled. So you can hit him for 4k, which is 8k, which is a one-shot potentially. Now, this guy does require a recipe of 3 Tindangle monster, but you do have the trap card to actually mitigate that. You can just have 3 different names in the graveyard and take battle damage from your opponent. If you do that, your opponent's monster will be destroyed, and then you get to summon out Acute CYBERSE straight from the extra deck. So that's basically 3 bodies saved. And on top of that, this card also has a graveyard effect where you can banish this while you control 3 different, not control, but while you have 3 different Tindangle monsters in the graveyard, and you can summon them all onto the field in face down defense position. It is really necessary that it is in face down defense position, because if it was face up, let's just say you go this card, summon 3, link 3, activate another copy, do another link 3, and then activate a third copy, do another link 3, which would be a bit too much in my opinion. But if you do this during your opponent's end phase, let's just say he's not going to be making a quick comeback, which is why I think this whole archetype can be an engine. You just run 3 of the different names, and then run 3 copies of this, and now you have an engine. Wow, so free, and then you just throw everything into the graveyard because you can. But in terms of the monster line, we have Apostle and Angel. Angel is a monster that summons out of the graveyard. Apostle can potentially be your first line of searching, where if you have another Tindangle already set, you can just flip the other one's face up. If you flip this one, and for each Tindangle monster that you flip face up, you can add another Tindangle card to your hand. Yeah, so it's pretty nifty. Your main monster here is Tindangle Base Gardener. If you control a set monster, you can special summon this card from your hand to defense position, and you can only do that once per turn, which is okay, fine, fair enough. If a monster is special summoned or normal summoned into a zone that your opponent's link monster points to, then you can actually tribute this card and actually get another Tindangle monster from the deck or hand and special summon face down defense. So this is your main tag out for your bigger monsters. One of them is a searcher, and also in the graveyard can actually special summon itself back out, especially when a monster is special summoned in face down defense position. And the other one is the Hound. He steals attacks. That's really all I can say. You can just grab the attack and actually get more. And if it is sent to the graveyard by battle or card effect, well, you can target one set monster on the field and change it to face up defense. So in other words, it can proc like a Book of Tayo. So that's basically the entire archetype. I would treat it more like an engine, but that's the only part that's really underrated. If you're gonna play on the draft tournament, just remember you're using Angel's Protection plus one of your set these dudes, you can do a lot. And Angel, if you actually flip him and activate him during the battle phase of your opponent's turn, it ends their battle phase, which is pretty neat. Now, I hope you guys are ready to play with your spell counters, and if you're a fan of the old Endymion structure deck, well, we have one archetype that's a huge boost for the one monster that was exclusive there, Mythical Beast of Cerberus. The mythical, oh my god, I can't say it. Mythical Beast of Master Cerberus is the new upgraded form, and I guess like the student now becomes the master. This is a secret rare that's not exactly highly sought after, so expect it to be about $5-10 bucks if you do pull it. Unless of course it becomes super popular, expect like a 300 to 400% spike on the price. Oh my god, I'm a little bit tired here. Okay, so how do they play? Well, you actually want to get as many monsters on the field as possible generating spell counters, because you can actually remove spell counters from anywhere to pay the cost. It's not like Breaker the Magical Warrior that requires you to remove its own. You can actually remove it from all over the place. And Master Cerberus, if there's 4 or more spell counters on the field, it cannot be destroyed by card effect, which is awesome. And you can remove spell counters from anywhere and basically target one monster your opponent controls and banish it straight up, and then you gain their attack. So he's the win condition, the boss monster. Aside from being a boss monster that seems to be difficult to summon, it's honestly very easy as long as you have King Jackal. And don't forget to play the Magical Citadel of Endymion, because it holds all your counters, especially when your monsters die, it just goes there instead. And it also has a self-protection effect, which is not too bad either. But think about it this way. There are cards that you guys are going to want for this deck, and that's going to be Toon Table of Contents, because that's actually going to set a lot of stuff up. You can also use Spell Power Grasp as well, but you know, it's a little bit slower. But Toon Table definitely can generate a ton of counters, and if you can actually spam a bunch of monsters on the field and get those counters going, that's where your advantage is going to be coming from. In terms of spells, we have Magical Boost, just adds 2 spell counters onto the field anywhere. If you activate it, you have to have a cost of sending 2 cards to the graveyard, which is not too bad. If your opponent pops it, you get a free monster they can put spell counters on. So let's hope that your opponent doesn't accidentally Twin Twister, because it's very punishing at that point. Now we have Mythical Beast King Jackal, which is another boss monster. I guess he's kind of a boss anyways. He special summons out of the extra deck. So he pops himself to bring out another Mythical Beast, except for a King Jackal. He's a monster reborn. And 2 spell counters as a monster when you activate any sort of spells, and when your opponent activates a monster effect, you can remove 2 spell counters and kind of negate that. So this one also acts as Divine Wrath. So Mythical Beast Jackal is your combo piece. You can use it to generate more tokens or counters on the field by using it as a pendulum spell card, or you can remove 3 from anywhere on the field and tribute this card and special summon anything from the deck. So he's also quick deck synergy as well. So this card plus a Toon Table of Contents can generate quite a nasty board. You also have Garuda. This is the hand trap that you have to be very careful of. So when your opponent normal summons or special summons a monster, except during damage step, you can actually special summon this card from the hand, and then that monster is returned to the hand. Yeah, that is pretty nasty. It can come out of nowhere. So if you're generating a ton of spell counters and you have these in your hand, yeah, your opponent's not going to have a good day, because especially if they commit their resources into, say, Link summoning a Link 4 monster and you bounce it back, yeah, they're not going to enjoy this. And very nice form of a hand trap. Basilisk, I don't know what he does. I don't know if he's actually any more important than Medusa, because all your cards are basically pendulum centric to go to the extra deck. Medusa's gonna have a very tough time when it comes to reviving anything from the graveyard. This is just what I'm saying. As for the other spells, we have here the Power of the Guardian, an equip spell that generates more and more spell counters as you attack with it. Every single time an attack is declared involving the equipped monster, you generate another spell counter. So that's actually a pretty cool card. I actually think it's very useful. It gains 500 attack. Feels like a little bit like Mage Power. And we have Magical Burst, which is a spell card retrieval by removing 6 counters. It's continuous, so yeah, I guess it's kind of neat. I guess you have to send this card to the graveyard though, so a bit of a hefty cost. I don't think it's exactly worth it, but if you have some pretty nasty spells like Raigeki that you want to reuse, maybe this is one way to actually fetch it back again. So that basically covers up for the Mythical Beast archetype. Spam as much as you can. Use these two as your main outlet of everything. Dig out monsters with this or add more spell counters. And find some way to actually revive a bunch of your dudes. Because if you can actually spam the board with 2 other monsters while generating tokens, it's kind of like 6 Sams. More spell counters, the better. Alright, time for the quickfire support rounds. So, I don't want to cover every single card right here. We have an X-Code Talker. This is the cover card, so I guess why not? Let's talk about him. He's ground collapse with a body, and he ground collapse is equal to the number of monsters that are in the extra monster zone. So at least 1, because maybe he'll be there. Perhaps he is a CYBERSE exclusive, requiring 2 CYBERSE monster. But think about it this way: most decks now in their extra deck, they run a ton of CYBERSE cards. Just saying, Decode Talker is a CYBERSE monster. Your Proxy Dragon's a CYBERSE monster. Your Link Karibo, your Link Spider's all CYBERSE monsters. Just saying, you have access to most of these Link monsters. Now, for Recovery Sorcerer, another card, we also have Vector Square Archfiend. I guess I want to talk about this one. Think about this one, similar to a Goyo Guardian. Steals monsters, but it destroys by battle to where it points to, which is kind of neat. But if you give it to your opponent, you can summon to your opponent's side, because it does state, you can special summon the destroyed monsters to either player's zone that this card points to. So this either player is an exclusive text that says giving access to your opponent's side, and if it's special summoned to your opponent's side, you can attack again. So in other words, it can give you a bit of an extra reach. Another interesting card would be Stripping Partner. This card, I guess it's kind of neat. If your opponent does negate your stuff, you activate something and they negate it, like for a monster fight, and say destroy it with like a Solemn Strike. Bear in mind that you can actually activate this card, special summon it, and then special summon out a level 4 lower CYBERSE monster out of the graveyard, giving you 2 free summons through their 1 negation. Just a play extender, really. And then there's a Bit Looper, Security Guard Knot. I believe this card's going to see a bit more play when it comes to, what's that card? Level Eater, Link Karibo. You can actually put the Link Karibo into the graveyard by putting out a Security Guard Knot, and this one actually pushes out the arrow, giving you another extra space for Link summoning, especially when you're using tokens. Flame Administrator is just for boosting attack. We have Lockout Guard Knot, Flick Clown. At a distance, this does look kind of offensive, but it's Flick, and I swear someone's got to make a funny little meme with it. So regardless, we also have Silent Refresh. And in terms of the other side, we have our Rockets. And Rockets, we finally get our Revolve Boot Sector. This is a field spell that I believe is pretty useful if you can get the second effect off, which is if your opponent controls more monsters than you do, which is most likely the case in most parts, especially if your opponent goes first. And if you're able to fill your graveyard up with rocket monsters, you can special summon equal to the surplus that they have up on you, which is a mass special summon. I don't mind that at all, especially when it's free. We're getting 2 more rocket monsters. We're getting Metal Rocket and Shell Rocket. Likely one of them is going to be more powerful than the other. Shell Rocket blows up in a bit of a line, I guess more column based mechanic. Shell blows up monsters and adjacent monsters to that monster off the same line, whereas Metal Rocket shoots a straight line, and I believe it pops everything in that straight line. That's just my guess. Yeah, destroy all cards your opponent controls in the same column as this one. So you have a sniper bullet and you have a shotgun shell. Or depending on what you want. And you have a barrel refrigeration, and you also have a new Link monster of a 3-burst blast dragon pointing up, down, and left. Bit of a strange arrow pointing, but who am I to complain about? And for crowd support are just archetypes that are getting 1 or 2 card support, but they're just super scattered in, so I decided to kind of group them here all together. We have Altergeist. Altergeist are getting a Link monster and a Trap. The Trap acts as a graveyard revival for any of your Altergeist monsters, and also you can actually banish this card from the graveyard to retrieve another Trap out of the graveyard, which is very nice because Altergeist is a trap heavy deck as well. Hexia gives you the ability to remove the threat of, I guess, spells and traps by being able to negate them through tributing your own Altergeist that it points to. And I believe you also get a search effect with that too. So that's actually a very nice thing. And in terms of other supports, we have Pendulum Paradox, which lets you retrieve 2 Pendulum monsters from the extra deck with different names, same scale. Very useful, even for the Magical CYBERSE, or not Magical CYBERSE, but the Mythical Beast archetype with all those spells. I guess pendulum monsters that are going to be stuck there with the same scale of 4. It's all good. It's actually potentially one of the best things for that deck too, and it's also a spell card which generates even more counters, but expect it to be useful in a lot of other cases too, like Pendulum Magician. It's actually pretty useful there too. Cliff Force can use it. Lots of pendulum decks can see support. I would actually keep a set of this just in case pendulums is your thing, it's your jam. Keep a set of that. If you're a dinosaur fan, you have Overtex Coddles. It's very difficult to summon by shuffling back 5 of your banished dinosaurs into the deck, but it gives you that recycled resource opportunity. It's pretty neat there, but you can also summon it with an evolution pill. It is a spell and trap negator, which is a very much needed thing for you, and you have to destroy a dinosaur in the process, which is really good for proccing off the baby Cerasauruses and the Petite Pteranodons. And if this card is sent to the graveyard by a card effect, you can add an evolution pill, which can in turn kind of summon another copy of this, or Ultimate Conductor Tyranno. We have Glory of the Noble Knights, a quick effect which adds a equip onto one of the monster you control, which is very nice. We have Artrine's Call, which is, I guess, a free summon of a fiend type monster that's level 5 or higher, which is very nice. But you also have to discard a fiend type monster. Could work very well in Dark Worlds, in my opinion, because it's a simultaneous effect of the summoning and the discarding, so it works. But this is only once per turn. Molnir, from the artifacts, it's just kind of a bit lackluster. It just special summons out another artifact out of the graveyard, but you can't special summon for the next turn, so you're not exactly making big plays. But you get to reuse your Scythe if you ran out of Scythe, or you get to reuse your Maul Attack if you don't have Maul Attack, so it's just there. Parallel Port Armors is a Link support, which is target Link monster you control. It cannot be destroyed by battle, and your opponent cannot target it with card effects, so very decent protection. And you can banish this card and 2 Link monsters from your graveyard, target 1 Link monster you control, and you can make a second attack, so double attack on a random Link monster. Depending on the Link monster you choose, it could be fatal. It's just kind of a neat card, I guess. And now we have Ghost Trick Reform, which lets you switch your Ghost Trick field spell with another one, and if you have a Ghost Trick monster, you can switch the overlay monster. Switch the Exceed, that's what I meant. So in terms of other potential cards, there's tons of Floodgate-esque monsters in this set, and Inspect Border is one of them. You can only activate monster effects equal to the number of, I guess, different monster card types on the field. So if there's nothing but effect monsters, you can't activate anything. You need stuff like rituals, you need stuff like synchros, exceeds, fusions, links on the field to increase the number higher so that you can actually use more effects. And this card is that floodgate, so it's pretty annoying. As a 2K beatstick, imagine not having any effect to actually deal with it. Yeah, it's pretty painful. We also have Contacting the Sea. I kind of find this card underwhelming because you can easily link it off to a proxy dragon. The only thing that's kind of cool about it is that it forces your opponent to link summon or fusion summon with it, or perhaps you can use it to jam one of their slots, which is a bit more important in my opinion, which I guess is kind of neat too, especially when they're trying to go into certain things and they can't without getting rid of it, especially archetype specific monsters. Jan Shimatsu, this is just Mahjong. Literally, a turn in Mahjong is you draw a tile and you play a tile. And this effect is exactly that. You draw a card and you discard a card. I guess it's kind of slow for a discard outlet, but it's kind of fun if you actually keep it on board. I don't really recommend people running this card. I thought it's just kind of cute, kind of like Party Prairie Knights. Fire Prison is like a CYBERSE dragon, anti-CYBERSE dragon boost. Neither player can link summon monsters with lower link rating than a monster on the field. So in other words, it's very hard to combo off and make huge link plays with this, so that's just a heads up. Downbeat is just a, say, transmodify, but instead of upping a level, going down a level instead. Guidance is actually pretty interesting. Guidance forces your opponent to summon into a zone that they haven't used. But if you use Ground Collapse on that zone, now they're stuck not able to actually summon anything at all. So there is some pretty fun things to do with this card. And looking at this card, we got a sexy warrior digrapher trying to dance with a DD warrior lady, and she is just completely creeped out. Yeah, it's kind of fun card. Another Floodgate-esque card, we have Sensor Differentiation. Each player can only control one monster of each type. Send all other face-up monsters they control to the graveyard. What does this mean? Each player can only control one monster of each type. I guess you can't actually have dupes. So if you can play zombies, you can't play the other ones. So this is kind of like the opposite of what was it? Gozen Match. Gozen Match only allows you to play one type, and you have to send every other face-up monster to the grave. This, imagine having both of them up. We can only play with one monster. kind of silly. Just a funny little thing. Another Floodgate. We also have Ventriloquist, Clara, and Lucica. This one here is a main phase 2 only Link summon, which is requiring the most generic of all cases, a normal summon or set monster. Yeah, but remember the or set part means that the monster was previously set, not that it is face down. And then we have the Fire 2 attribute, which allows you to retreat fire, which is Do Little Chimera. Yeah, okay. Kind of a neat little card. I guess it's going to be a super or perhaps even a common now. Okay, so for the TCG exclusive and the OCG imports, obviously I don't have all the OCG imports. Most of the imports were already on the hype list because they are some of the best cards in the set and they are made to be secret rare or ultra rare. But as for the OCG imports, maybe they'll give us Patchwork finally for the Frightfurs, maybe they'll give us Security Dragon, maybe they'll give us that BA monster that's also part of Link Friends. That's just my anticipation. It could really go in that direction, to be honest. But okay, anyways, for TCG exclusive, we haven't seen the vendread stuff yet. We have seen the FA, and let's talk about the FA. You know, we have the FA, let's talk about it. We have the Auto Navigator, which is a huge boost to the whole deck, giving you a tuner monster and a synchro monster, of course, the two come hand in hand. This one is a field spell searcher upon summoning. It is level 1, it is 0 attack, 0 defense, but you can special summon it by eating up the levels of the ones that you gained on your other FA monsters. And remember, FA monsters, they gain their effects when they hit a certain level. At level 7, I believe, like you have Macrocosmos, you have anti-cost paying effect, which means your Ghost Ogres are useless, basically all your hand traps are basically dead. A hand trap shutter, which sounds pretty good, especially in the current format where a lot of stuff is hand trap driven. Okay. Well, aside from that, you also have like this spell card, this quick play spell, which gives you a non-targeting destruction, and it can also pop one of your own cards, which you don't mind, especially your field spells, because you can retrieve your field spells, and you get to special summon an FA monster from the deck. You get a special summon and a pop, and a field spell research, which is a ton of advantage. So maybe a lot of people have been saying that this is enough to actually push them to the competitive level. It is a pretty good chance. Maybe this is the next Spiral, potentially. Like, Spirals, we didn't see much potential in them before, but now it does seem like we have a chance to play this deck at a more competitive sense, especially with Test Run and Grand Prix, the two of them together. Because remember, if you do destroy this card with a card effect, remember you get to add an FA card from the deck to the hand, except for the Grand Prix. But you can obviously add a different Grand Prix. This City Grand Prix, you can add a different one. There's just so many field spells in this archetype already that you can definitely try out. Alright, so that's basically it for the TCG exclusive that I have available. Don't forget to check out the wiki or Yu-Gi-Oh! Org when the new information comes out, because I'm not able to provide you with that stuff right now, because going to Japan, if you don't remember me mentioning it, I guess at the beginning of the video. And time for the final roll call of the remaining cards I never really talked about in this set. We have Zombino, I guess the Zombina's lover, with a creepy little poem there. We have a World Legacy World Shield. Didn't really kind of fit him into the MEKK-KNIGHTS, but he's related to the MEKK-KNIGHTS and the whole World Legacy story. We have Mikuratori, which is different columns to different effects. Tasmanian Devil, if you deal, I believe, destroy a monster by battle, you can actually add another beast. This monster, DD Pursuer, is literally just a wind-up rabbit, if you ask me, except that you can actually banish other monsters to the end of the other end phases. We also have Kinesis, column shifting for your opponent's cards, also a hand trap. We have Angle Grappler, which is a monster reborn in defense mode if you can deal battle damage directly. We also have Assport. This is just column control shifting on your own side. We have Role Reversal, Life Point Swap. I don't see what's the point of this card, especially when you can only swap when you're higher than your opponent. Just don't really get it. We have also Linkage Hole. It's basically a weaker version of Raigeki and Dark Hole. If you control a Link 4 or higher monster, destroy monsters your opponent controls up to the number of Link 3 or higher monster you control. So it's just a weaker version of Dark Hole Raigeki. Or maybe a more pinpoint precise one, maybe you don't want to destroy everything. And we have Parthian Shot, which is skip your opponent's main phase 2 straight to the end phase, especially at the end of the battle phase. We have Critical Timing, negating an effect or card or spell or whatever that matches the name of something that they already have in the graveyard for your opponent. And then we have Accidentation, finally destroy this video, or destroy your own card. Yeah, that's all it does. So that basically kind of covers up the entire thing. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit that subscribe button. It really took forever to do this. My voice went softer as I went because I don't want to wake anyone up. I've been like filming since 10. It's like 2 now. It just takes a lot of effort to read every single card in the set, and especially I don't even have all the information just yet. I am missing a couple of them, so remember to check out the wiki. And next time when I do a set analysis, I will make sure that I'm not going on vacation when I do it, and I'll cover the entire set again. And hopefully you guys enjoy this new layout too. This is a 2018 layout of a set analysis. If you guys enjoyed it, please hit me with a thumbs up. If you guys want to see more stuff from MST.TV, hit the subscribe button. And always, if there's anything you want to talk about, if there's anything I missed, leave it down in the comment section below. Maybe there's some things that you guys are really looking forward to. If you guys are looking forward to anything, leave it down there as well. I would love to read your comments. And as always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV. And thanks for watching all the way through. Hey guys, thanks for watching. If you like this video, please drop us a like so we know we are doing a good job, and you can also subscribe to MST.TV for more fantastic videos by clicking on the button on the left. Don't forget to check out our partners at Imperium Duelist. They make really high quality mats, including some of my own limited edition release stuff. And if you want to check out one of our past videos, click here on the right. As always, don't forget to hold on to your MST.TV, and I'll see you next time.